Hello and welcome to the Earth Art TV podcast. I'm your host Richard Shilling, and this week we are bringing you a very special episode from a holiday cottage in Lancashire. Now, we are recording together physically in the same room for the first time. As well as the Earth Art TV crew, James, Caroline, Julia, Rebecca, Mark and myself, we are delighted to welcome our very special guest, Jon Foreman, also known as Sculpt The World. During the first part of the episode, I talk about the place that we are gathered in, how important it is to me as an artist, and how it has been a great catalyst in my art career. Then the conversation turns to how everyone else began their art careers, what inspired them, and the paths they trodden to get to where they are now. We talk about education, mental health, how creativity is everyone's birthright, and many other subjects. And we answer some questions sent in by our valued listeners. So without further ado, I bring you the Holiday Cottage episode. Hello and welcome to the Earth Art TV podcast. I am your host, Richard Shilling, and I bring to you today a very special edition of our little podcast. Our normal crew are actually together geographically rather than spread across different parts of the country. So we have our normal set of people. We have James and
Hello.
Caroline.
Hello.
And we have Mark and Rebecca.
Hello.
And we have myself and Julia.
Hello.
And we have a special guest joining us today, one and only Jon Foreman.
Hello.
Hello, Jon. We don't normally get a round of applause, so that's extremely special.
Special
treatment.
guest.
Yeah. Now, I think the first point of order is to realise as soon as the first time we're actually together in the same room, we've all decided to sit as far away from our normal podcast partner as possible. So that's obviously something to be said about that. So I think I should tell you about why we're all together for this particular episode.
Please do.
So we're in a place called Ray in Lancashire, which is 20 minutes away from where Julia and I live. And my whole land art excursion career, whatever you want to call it, started when I moved from the south of England to up here in the northwest of England. And it's a very beautiful area of the country, and I found it very inspiring, as I've described my story many times before. But I was always out looking for places that I could make things, and quite a lot of the land around here is owned by either Duke of Westminster or the Crown, so the Queen as she used to be, or the King. And so a lot of the land I was using was private, really. So I was asking around on the places I was showing my photos for locations where I could actually make things with permission. And one of the people that I was friends with on Flickr, it was in those days, on social media and photo sharing, told me about this place where we are now, and go along and see a guy called Rod, who owns Backsbottom Farm and Middlewood, to see whether he would let me come onto his land and begin making things. And I really, couldn't really predict quite what that would turn into and quite what this place is. So Rod is just a most lovely, generous person who has some of the most beautiful landscapes in this area. He on his land, he's got 3 miles of wild river set in a really deep valley with cliffs and woods and all sorts of amazing landscapes all around it. And when I went to speak to him, he couldn't be more welcoming, and he was like, yeah, just go and make whatever you like. It's your playground to do whatever you like. And that's quite an unusual thing in our country. Everything's kind of owned or has a private sign, a big gate, a big fence. It's kind of unfortunate cultural thing in this country. So to find somewhere which is not only one of the most remarkable, beautiful places around here, but also was owned by someone who his passion is to share it with people. I may have never found out about him, so I feel extremely lucky and privileged to have found out about it. So that was probably, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago now, I'm not sure. And they made me resident artist, which is a really fancy word for just come here and make whatever I like, whenever I like. And I tell people about it all the time. I do workshops and bring people here and I say, there's this amazing place that I'm resident artist. And I don't think people can really appreciate it unless they come here to see it. Now, this year, we would all be planning, this time of year, we would all be planning on going to the Leaf Festival in Texas, which is where we all originally met. But sadly, it's not taking place this year. So instead, a lot of us we're staying at home. So instead of meeting there and creating together there, we've all got together in this holiday cottage, which is attached to this land that I've been telling you about. And so we've been here a few days, having laughs and eating my amazing food that I've been cooking for them.
It has been amazing.
And going out and exploring this landscape. And I mean, I've really had a ball just being able to show you guys.
It's been, Richard, it's been really great to explore this ravine with the river going through it, and also to see the sort of post-industrial landscape remnants of the old quarry and some of the cuttings and buildings and things that are on this land.
What a fascinating, beautiful, just extraordinary landscape here. I mean, one of the things that trying to see where these tracks went, and you can see over the years they've collapsed, and the landscape just is kind of reclaiming and hiding what was here gone before, even though, 100 years since it was last worked as a quarry?
Yeah, I mean, it's so steep-sided, isn't it? That there's just, and very damp as it's been, and it's just things tumbling down all the time, trees coming down, and I mean, you can see what such an active landscape it is. But for a land artist who feeds off the energy of the land, it's, you tell me,
it's dynamic.
I'm kind of been here coming a long time, so I'm kind of used to it.
I think it's absolutely, it's stunning. I'm really taken by the colour that's out there. Even on quite grey, rainy days, I'm struck by the light and the colour that's coming through at any point in the day is kind of remarkable, really. It's wonderful.
But it's one of those rare environments, the temperate rainforest that you get on the west coast.
Yeah.
In this area, it's kind of a rare environment. I think there's some more in the west coast of Scotland and some northern fringes of Wales and in Devon, and I think Devon's the next set. So you get that moss and lichens and ferns all over everything.
Yeah, you must get more moss. Rain here than we do in Yorkshire.
Yeah.
That's clearly obvious by all the moss that's here.
I don't know, we'll have words about that.
Are you having a rain competition?
Yeah.
I was going to say there's moss everywhere. There's moss on moss. There's moss growing out of trees and ferns growing on branches of trees.
Yeah.
It's extraordinary.
Lots of different colours.
Yeah. So everything's got this sort of green kind of glow around it.
It really does glow as well, even on the dark day. Yeah.
Kind of it's a really interesting landscape.
What's it like in the summer with all the leaves out? Does it change particularly?
We'll have to come back.
Are we up? I think that's what I'm angling for, James.
A free ticket back.
Yeah.
I mean, because there's such steep-sided valleys. I mean, not that the sun's been out too much the last few days, but the sun isn't in there for very long this time of year. But you're getting quite a bit more light in there. But I think maybe there was that bit where you go up that slope and where you guys are making that big bit of work. The steep-sided And the lumpiness of it means you can sort of stand on parts of it and you're looking straight into the top of the tree canopy. So when the leaves are out, and the light's coming through it, it's sort of magical in a
I mean, just to say, we've
way.
had some horrific rain here lately, so it's so soft underfoot. We are pulling our shoes and boots out of the mud and hoping they're still on our feet.
We will post some pictures on Land Art TV.
We should post pictures,
so you can actually see what we're talking about and appreciate, especially the vibrancy of the colours.
To get across how special it is, just in words.
Yeah. We'll post our work from the week, yeah?
And really nice to be in a place that is so kind of like connected to your journey, both yourself and Julia. It's really nice to get the invite to come.
Oh, it's lovely to have you all here.
Yeah, it's great to be
here. I mean, it's been an idea that we've had for a long time, really, and it sort of was one of those things that you thought it'd be nice to do, but you never quite get round to organising it, or you think that, everybody would be busy or whatever, but... finally sort of conspired to come together. And I mean, this cottage that we're staying in, we've never been in it before, even though we come here because this is their holiday cottage. So, and this is a beautiful place, and it's down a dead end lane, and with the view of the river just out. It's a real idyllic sort of Shangri-La. So,
don't want to go home.
No. We're not going home. Did we tell you? That's it.
No, they'll have to change the locks. They won't be able to get us out.
Yeah.
But it really is a joy to, relive again your first reactions to somewhere through other people, to sort of, to share that and see, because, again, mentioning how moved from the south of England to the north for work originally, and then started the whole land art journey from there. It's such a privilege, and how it's changed my life, that to kind of share my my gratitude by showing other people, because I'm still incredibly grateful for.
Did your journey start once you moved, or was you aware of the kind of land art movement when you were still down south and then moved, knowing that was in the back of your mind?
No, it was there's an interesting extra to that. So no, it was purely moving up here. And there's a large Andy Goldsworthy installation on the hill closest to Lancaster, and I went for a run up there. I used to do a lot of fell running, and before my knees gave out, and found it up there and had no idea what it was. It kind of, I just didn't have an art education at all, really, so I didn't. That worldview of understanding that you might have something in the middle of nowhere built like that. It's literally in the middle of nowhere on a grouse moor, 8 miles run from the road, just on its own. And there's stone everywhere, and the shape of these things, with these 3 alcoves that a person can stand in.
I think I know the work.
Yeah, I mean, I now know that's fairly archetypal Goldsworthy, but I had no idea at the time. And when I got to it, it was a case of low on blood sugar, having run quite a long way. I wouldn't immediately think, well, there'd be a sculpture here. I mean, I wasn't complete. I appreciated it in art.
Duke of Westminster.
Yeah, it was commissioned for the millennium. And all around the place they have these things called grouse butts, which are like these horseshoe-shaped walls that people stand behind to shoot things with. From behind, that's what the grouse moors are for. So I kind of thought, is it something to do, some kind of utilitarian thing? I just didn't know really, but it was something different. I didn't immediately think it was a sculpture. So it all got triggered from there. So it is deeply associated with being here, living in the Northwest, and I already moved to Lancaster. We're only 20 minutes from Lancaster where we are here. So this is still in an environment, but so it all went from there. Other than when I was at school, I went to a school where we had to do go to school on Saturday mornings and had Wednesday afternoons to do something else for some strange reason, and I did a AS level in general studies, because got failed on the A levels I was doing,
Me
following
too.
my brother in
I did
doing.
that one.
Yeah, it was really good. It's the best thing.
You did
I
A-levels?
The entire
Wow.
school. After picking maths, biology, and chemistry. No, I didn't even get that wrong. Maths, physics, and chemistry. It was just terrible at all of it. I've got a brother who went to Cambridge doing maths, so I thought that's what I was supposed to be doing. Anyway, I digress. General studies, and we did a term of art history. And I loved it. So I was a little bit of an art education, but we went out one day and made land art.
Oh, wow.
And I only remembered 5 or so years into starting making land art myself, even though it kind of taken over. I was like, there's this sort of memory from the past that kind of came knocking. I was like,
It's often quite interesting when you things come back to you that you connect with what you do now, but you completely forget it happened.
yeah, you'd think surely I would have made the connection quite early on, but I didn't at all. So I thought that was interesting, and I couldn't remember what I made.
I was going to ask you, did you remember? Do you remember where it was?
Not really,
That's
no,
right.
it's sort of strange. So there was some sort of echo. I mean, there's big connections with, it's not just the land art. The way I go about it is very much like I was when I was a child. My parents live down a little lane, middle of nowhere, and I used to spend all the summers just exploring woods and fields and didn't see anyone. And it's still an extension of that. I always say to people, it's not really about what you make, it's about that connect, that forgetting yourself and connection to nature. And it still is that. So I can get, I haven't made anything since you guys have been here other than food. But
Yes,
and I think you guys are kind of thinking, I'm like, which is a joy for me to try and create that experience for you.
Well, you're the
So
perfect
it's
host.
not a problem. But it comes and goes just like a child. You don't think, as soon as we started to do, I'm supposed to be doing this now, you start to lose that spark of childhood. So if it's not happening for me at the moment, it's not happening. And, maybe it'll happen at 3:00 in the morning
That's
tomorrow.
what we
and
said, didn't we,
who knows?
Yeah, absolutely.
Caroline and I were saying that when you feel like you have to do something, it makes it really difficult,
Really, really difficult.
and you don't want to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I find it really hard to work within the parameters of 9 to 5 for that reason.
Absolutely. And it's taken me a long time to come to grips with that. And I'm actually only very recently kind of accepting that, because I felt under a lot of picking, not that I picked to become an artist, but realising you're making a living out of it. And having...
Do you make a living?
Living out of it?
But I was also going to say that's
that
interesting. Did you choose to be an artist, or did being an artist choose you?
Oh,
Definitely the second one.
Definitely the second one.
It is, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah. Nobody
Would
chooses
you
to be
say
an
no?
artist.
Speaking
And
of someone
John.
who got a grade E A-level general studies at Havant College,
Well done.
I got an A for art. So I kind of chose to go down the art route because general studies, well, I didn't know what that was anyway. So, yeah.
Didn't you study Richard's art at uni? John?
Studied Richard's art at
Me,
university.
I
Yeah.
did. Yeah.
Ah.
I studied. I mean, I
not a
say
question I would have
studied.
asked.
I mean, I discovered numerous land artists, and
Okay.
I put them in my
Yeah.
book as like reference to what I was doing.
Who else did you?
Michael Grab.
Yeah.
The obvious ones: Andy Goldsworthy, Richard Long, Nil Zudo. But yeah, Richard and Michael.
So what was your first spark to sort of looking at that? Was there something that you
So
saw?
for me, it was actually the fact that I was already arranging objects.
Okay.
So I was trying to work out where it was going, and because I wasn't going to have materials that are just around all the time, like man-made materials, for instance, it just made sense to transition to sort of land art. But I did also do derelict work in derelict spaces, but in a land art sort of fashion.
Yeah, no, I remember seeing that.
So I was trying to sort of push it in a different sort of way. But yeah, it all just stemmed from this arranging objects thing. But yeah, I did study you and Michael, so to speak, along with the ridiculous
We all have
amount of others.
connections to Richard. We've been there before.
Yeah.
Maybe. No, interesting. So was that really early on? So this is when you were at college studying art in particular?
Yeah, you're talking 2011, I think. When did you start doing that?
2007.
I thought it was 2006.
Doesn't matter.
I think,
About
no,
that.
I think it's. I think it was.
It was
January
2006 to 2007.
Yeah,
and
I mean, there's
around about
a lot
that time.
that changed around that time.
What about you, Mark?
1992.
Yeah, no, Mark's
That was
Mark's
the year
an
I was
OG.
born.
Yeah.
Mark's the year you were
Yeah,
born,
yeah.
John.
Thanks, John.
Yeah, so that's when I got A-level art, an A for A-level art, and I started Art Foundation at Worthing, Northbrook College. That's when that's when I want to be someone who makes stuff.
So you said literally because you got an E in general studies. That what I mean, was that literally the spot that you didn't know or nothing else fitted?
I got an A for GCSE art,
Okay.
and then I got an A for A-level art. So
Yeah.
it seemed like that was my path. Everything else
I'd like
was
to
like...
think somewhere in the
Things
country there's
suggesting that, yeah.
a cottage of 9 people that kind of did general studies, and they're all having a general studies weekend away now.
There's something to be said for
I've
that.
had a long and exciting career in general studies.
I didn't even get a B, I don't think, for art.
I
But I
got
just
an
wanted
A-level.
to do it.
Did you
I wanted to do
either
it, so
of
I
you
did
have a mentor that was saying go in that direction?
No, not really. My tutors were amazing and actually one of the biggest influences on my trajectory, so to speak. I think the way they work is they put loads of materials in front of you and they just say, use them, basically. And yeah, that's the best thing that I did was that course, because I spent a year just trying everything.
Okay, so you had dabbled in absolutely everything until you started to find
Yeah.
what really inspired you.
And I think the way that they teach, so to speak, we're going down the can you teach creativity road
Yeah.
again here,
Yeah,
but the way they teach is
create
to just
space for it.
give you the space, give you the materials, and just encourage you, which is not something that you get at university level.
And where was
usually.
that? Where was that?
I mean, it wasn't university level; it's between A level and degree, so it's foundation.
And where was that at?
Pembrokeshire College.
Right.
Yeah. So, and I never wanted to move away and, spend loads of money on uni or anything like that. And it all worked out fine. And
Yeah.
actually, I think they probably had
I'm
more
doing
time
bad,
for us because
He's all right.
Doing all right.
if you think about like at a typical uni, there's one tutor to how many students, or a couple of tutors to how many students.
I think it depends where you go. Mine was very different. Mine was quite small, and in London, the access to the kind of people we had come in to do one-on-one sessions with students was remarkable. Really,
Yeah.
The quality of artists that were coming in.
Yeah.
So it depends where you go.
Yeah, they had all the time for us, or they made all the time for us, and they wanted us to succeed, which is so important.
Yeah.
So what about you guys? We need a tale from each one of you. They're looking at me like, yeah.
While they're thinking about what tale to drum up.
I can tell a tale.
You-
Do you want to tell?
Yeah, I was just going to say, similar to what John was saying, is like, I really love to draw. So
So do I.
really, really love drawing, mark making. So when I thought up my path was like painting, I was going to be a painter. And my drawings were like really sculptural. So they suggested, well, make things 3-dimensional. And for me, well, how do I make drawings 3-dimensional? And it was like, well, let's use sticks, use wire, use anything I can find that's long and bendy. So that's how I went down the route.
That's
of
really
weaving.
interesting that you say that, Mark. I was down talking to you and Rebecca today when you were making this pod, wasn't it? You got from dogwood and willow, and you were giving me some tips on how to do that. And that imagery of you saying how to make a drawing, that's exactly what you were doing. Mm-hmm. It quite literally, cross hatching and shading and joining different bits. Yeah, I mean, absolutely, because Yeah, I can really see that. I mean, it sounds probably for the podcast listeners, it sounds a bit, but I stood there watching because I like watching people make things and seeing how that goes. Like people do Instagram videos of there's somebody making something. It's quite a mesmeric thing. But when you said that phrase, immediately that had that's exactly
and some of them are like refined drawings, and some are just like scribbly doodles.
Yeah,
and it's just like how can you make the biggest thing possible with what materials you can find at hand?
Yeah, and it's got that doodle quality, which is that kind of just free flow, no planter, but kind of like your forms are about organic ooze, that kind of thing. Yeah, no, that's very interesting.
Just to say as well, in the cottage where we are, Mark and Rebecca have put paper all over the table where we eat our meals and our breakfast, and we are constantly doodling on that table. And that's kind of
nice
evolving
idea. It's
over the
lovely.
time we're here, and it's brilliant.
So many different styles of drawing, and it's lovely. And our messy dinner can become part of the picture.
With them just making it. Making it work.
But you were asking about so I can say when I met Mark at a yoga class back in 2002, 3, 1. Really? Okay, back in 2001 I was at the yoga and met Mark, but over probably about 3 years of kind of like whatever, and then I was really blown away by Mark's creativity. And for me, I was doing a degree in English literature and creative writing at the time, and so I've just always been someone who just loves either the written word or painting or drawing. That's something that I've always been really like. Well, it's just part of the fire in my belly. And so when I met Mark, I just found his art and his creativity so inspiring, but also incredibly generous. And I started, when we got together, I started working with Mark, and he was always someone who said, you can do this. And I'd be like, I can't do this. And he was like, no, you can. Just like, keep going, look at the form, stand back. And he kind of trained me. He took that time. And especially even with drawing, when I was really self-conscious about drawing, that really, the judgment that people, I think it gets instilled in so many people. I can speak for myself, but I think for a lot of people is I can't do this. And I realised we can do maths, we can do physics, we can do science, we can draw, we can paint, if we can think we can do it. And Mark always has said, always like been such a stand for my creativity.
Because art is the core subject in which all the other subjects spring off. So when we go into schools, we always like you've got to use mathematics, you've got to use science, all kinds of methodology. That obviously art is the key thing.
Yeah, and you're it's a bit of making the pod down there today, which is almost made, is like you get to the shape, but you want to stand back and look and just think, well, is it going, we'd pull that piece out to kind of balance it. And then very excitingly to think where we're going to photograph it. And the moss, it's like a cavern of moss down there, which just is so vibrant. And the pod is actually made out of like dogwood, which has got this lovely rich red and some of the green. So that's going to look really, we'll post a picture. But, and so I've been working with Mark now for, I don't know, 20 years now, which is, and I love it. I've taken a few breaks and gone off and trained to be a teacher. I thought, no. And then I did a desk job for a couple of years during lockdown because we all needed to earn a living. But, this is, it's just so great to be working outside again. That's me. That's my little story. That's mine.
Welcome back. Yes.
Oh, it's good to be back.
Well, part of what we were planning, we were talking about how we're going to do this podcast ongoing in the future. We're so some of our listeners, we're just starting out, a bit wet behind the ears. So this format is developing as we work out how to get the best out of this and make it as interesting to listeners as possible. And so we've been fielding some questions to answer, but actually going to do that later on in a later part. But one of the questions I'm going to bring forward, I think, because it'd be quite interesting. Now, I think it was specifically about land art, but I think that's far too narrow. But it's what other art forms are you two interested in that you can bring to this place? I think because Caroline, you're a designer and an artist of many disciplines. You may not feed off directly off the environment quite like what we do.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
But being here,
yeah, still amazing and a really sort of brilliant opportunity to have a different environment to work in, even if my work is not the same as the rest of you guys. But it's really inspiring to be in a different place. And I was just like, when you guys were just talking about how you got where you got, I was just trying to think, did I ever make a choice to do what I do? And I didn't. I definitely didn't. And I wasn't particularly, I did well at school. I was classed as quite bright, but as I've also sort of had a late diagnosis of ADHD. I'm one of the many people, especially women in their 50s, that have had that. So at school, all my reports are full of, she's really very, very bright. If only she could apply herself. If only she would focus. So I came through school with okay results and art was the thing that I did. So in a similar way to Mark, just automatically went to Art Foundation, where you get to try all sorts of different stuff. And, that's where I met James. So, it's kind of, there was never a decision. And I just, through that, graphic design was the thing that I spent the most time doing and the thing that I found myself drawn to. So then just went straight into a career in that and just did that for 30 years. The dogs grumbling about that. Okay.
Foxes here.
But I guess it's, it's a different thing that I do, but the inspiration that you get coming to a different place and sort of, bouncing off people and it's all the same stuff. It's all
because you're particularly working on something for us all at the moment, some design work,
I am,
which is very nature inspired and which we think is absolutely beautiful.
It's great to be able to immerse myself in that while I'm creating that and working on that.
Wonderful.
So.
Caroline and I were talking about creating something together, weren't we?
Yeah.
We haven't got round to
We
it
haven't
yet,
done that yet, but
Still time.
Still got time.
And I've still been, I've been collecting stuff with that.
We're going to go around collecting different colours, looking at different colours, and out in the forest and see what we can find, different shapes. And
we've got time yet, and it's in our minds, isn't it? So,
yeah.
Because you're an interesting case as well, Julia. Obviously, I know you very
Interesting
well.
case.
But one of the things that's been really interesting about your discovery of your creative side is we've done lots of land art together and done businessy land art stuff together. But in that time, you've tried everything. I mean, much like I think Jon was saying, where he's mentored by his tutors to give you a bit of everything and try it out. You were writing poetry. You've really got into collage. You've just got a set of paper making materials for your birthday just gone. I mean, you tell me all the different things that how it interests you.
I want to start making my own paper. So my daughter bought me some of those frames with the mesh in it so that I can start doing that. I disliked school intensely. It didn't work for me. And they were, in the era that I was at school, they had, the girls did one thing and the boys did another. The boys pushed down woodwork and metalwork, and I was pushed down needlework, typewriting, all of that sort of thing. And it was just, they were preparing you to be, do a bit of work and then get married, have children, which is what I did. So I ended up doing that. I used to love drawing. I used to do a lot of drawing, and even though I don't think I was particularly good at it, I used to do it a lot. And then when I did eventually get married, I used to do a lot of drawing as well. But then once the family came along, that just went all out of the window because you just don't have the time, or you think that you don't. Well, no, you don't have the time. And then I didn't start doing any art again until I came up north and met Richard, and then I started doing land art with you, and then, like you just said, started to expand my horizons by doing collage, which I was doing quite prolifically for, I don't know, 3-4 years, since 2020.
Really deep into it, really good stuff.
What amazing journeys that has brought us all here to this place right now.
Yeah,
It's so lovely.
Yeah, I think the importance of messing about like with different things is such a key thing as well. Even now, like, yes, I do land art predominantly, but I still mess about with all sorts of different things in extra time, so that it keeps giving you extra ideas.
Like your band.
See,
Yeah, I'm in a death metal band.
Yay.
yeah, I'm not.
Shout
That's
out
not
to
what
a
I was
play
going to say.
parlour.
No, I find that really interesting because and we were talking a little bit about this earlier today, Julia. I dabble in so many different things. You know, obviously I've had got this career in design, but outside of that, I dabble in all sorts, and I don't necessarily, I haven't in the past necessarily seen that as a positive, because I've always felt, and I used the term today, didn't I? I've always considered myself a bit of a shallow thinker. I kind of, I do that for a bit, and then I think, oh, I'm doing for that now, so I'm going to try this instead and that instead. So I feel like I've never become a real master of one thing, which I think, I kind of look around at you guys and you're all like, sort of, really in on one thing, whereas I'm just like, oh, this week I'm mostly knitting, and next week I might, do, like you said, collage, or, I really do move around, and it's interesting that I hadn't seen it as a positive, but actually, I think it is.
Absolutely positive. I had the conversation with a woman we know, Lily. She's incredibly talented artist and forest school leader. And we had this conversation. She says, "No, there's two ways. There's what was it, narrow and deep, or shallow and wide."
Right.
And so even with us as land artists, to you,
so it's okay. I don't think I want to be shallow and wide.
So actually,
Okay,
we've got probably some examples of both of those within our land art here. So John and James are. It's a bit of a generalisation, but for the point of conversation, narrow and deep, because you will take the spiral, the repeating pattern, James. Yeah. Whereas I've made that one. I'm bored now. I need something new. And so mine is definitely, I'm looking for all those different designs. And John, you're looking for that perfection in the arrangement of the sizes and the So there's, I talk about people,
but it's what makes us all different as people, as human beings.
Absolutely. But I mean, it's different. What's the word? Different expressions of the same thing. You're making connections between different parts of your brain that don't normally talk to each other, and that's where the creativity comes. You're coming up with new ideas, and if your way to those new ideas is to take on something novel. I think there's at least three of us here. I'm like that. I think Julie's like that. You are. And it's the same thing. It's the human, we're the art making animal. Making those connections is why I won't do the doom speech. We're always looking for that innovation.
Maybe
it's what makes our brains grow.
A nice little time to take a bit of a break and come back and actually talk about what we have been making.
Absolutely.
Well, before we do that, I was quite interested to hear about you're going to be making paper. Now, what's the process? You're going to be using existing paper and recycling, or are you going that wood pulp? How are you making that paper? And will it be as good as Cardi papers that James uses?
I doubt it.
I've been drawing on Cardi papers all week.
It's a high bar, Julia.
Tell us a bit quickly about Cardi paper.
Well, I'm going to use all sorts. First of all, I'm going to use lots of junk mail and egg boxes and things like that. And then I am quite interested in the whole mushroom thing for making paper, but I need to read about that. I haven't really got the knowledge to talk about it. So
We've got some grown in the bathroom, haven't we?
mushrooms.
Yeah.
There's a lot here that you. Do you remember what they're called? Those.
Can you use any? Well, there's.
No, it's the ones that grow on the side of a tree and they look.
Oh, okay. Like
Are they a bracket?
bracket fungus. There's the one that they use to make tinder, don't they? But they carry their.
Yeah, you can use that.
There's
for
plenty of
making
that
paper.
around. Okay, yeah. I can't remember the exact thing. We went on that mushroom foraging thing here, actually, didn't we? With
there's lots of elf caps. These little bright red elf caps, which are really vibrant against all this green moss.
They're
here.
amazing.
Yeah.
it's a
You can
good
eat
place for
those.
mushroom foraging.
They're
Yeah.
edible.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, they're edible, and someone else says, "Well, yeah, all mushrooms are edible,
Yeah,
right?"
at least
No, but
once. yeah.
Them in salad.
It's just like
Well, I don't think we
Yeah,
should be here
don't.
Give it a nice
handing
pop of
out
colour.
hand fungi advice.
Well, I'm not
So
saying anyone should
disclaimer.
go and eat them, but
No.
Yeah, don't eat them, kids.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think James is right. That's definitely a good place for
So
a
we're going
break.
to an
Yeah.
advert now.
But
If
Can I
I do
just
have a
somebody will
question for
sponsor
John.
us.
I do have a question for John.
Oh, ask away.
Go on.
Go on then.
Ask
Okay.
away.
John, so your Sculpt the World. Now, when did you start being Sculpt the World, or did you
I
were you
actually-
making work before? Or
I think I started the page on Facebook in 2011 when I was still in college.
Wow.
But that was kind of before land art in a way, or around the same time, because I was still using just like broken bits of wood that were about like man-made looking. It's not man-made wood, but it's
Yeah.
cut and stuff.
Yeah.
And it just I liked the idea that it had like a double sort of meaning to it, because I think I must have known about land art at that point. I didn't know that I was going to become just a land artist, but the name sort of connects to the nature and everything. But it also means make the world the way you want it. Your world, so to speak.
Yeah.
Because it's your life, isn't it? And you create what you want to create within that space. I think that's what I was trying to make out of it. Yeah.
I didn't realise that. I like that. That's
Yeah, so it's not just to be taken literally. I'm not this person who actually thinks that they're sculpting the world, because I'm not. I'm just playing with one thing at a time.
Yeah, for sure.
good question.
Thank
I
you.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Okay, so we'll go to a break. We'll be back in a minute.
Bye.
well, tell you what, my hands are really sore.
Do you know what? I've got something by Walida, which is
I love
I
Walida.
fell for it, almost like the mice.
Do you know I've been weaving all day and my hands are really dry and cracked. Have you got anything for that?
yes,
Oh,
Walida
wow.
is the best hand cream for land artists, and you don't actually have to be a land artist to use it, but it will make your hands silky soft.
That's amazing. Is it like skin food?
It is skin food. It's so interesting.
exactly that,
It's
Mark.
exactly what it says. Rich, intensive skincare for face or body.
Just out of just a point of interest, I was resident artist at Walida's 13-acre biodynamic herb garden for
That's
a
amazing,
year during COVID.
Wow.
It's an amazing company. And what they don't tell you, what people don't know about Walida, is the fact that they only use anything that they've grown themselves. They don't buy in anything. If they can't grow it in one of their herb gardens around the world,
Yes.
they don't buy it in. It's
Is that
all
a
grown.
biodynamic
Yeah.
method? All right.
They've got to keep control. There's so many controls in terms of the sun and the moon and the sort of cycles. Everything's grown to a very, very, very intense, fascinating process. Hence, they can't trust anybody else. Fascinating company,
Wow.
Walida.
Amazing products as well. I'm saying
amazing.
it too because I do have my Walida skin food with me at all times, and it's a very comforting smell that just for me
Does
makes
smell
everything
delicious.
okay.
Do they do one for aches and pains as well?
They do all sorts. Yeah, there's loads of different sort of treatments for all sorts of things. I've got a book. They do a little book. I'll lend you the book.
Well, thank you.
Well, there you go.
Thank you, Walida.
Indeed.
Welcome back, everyone, to part 2, and we're going to have a little chat about the work that you guys have been making around the place. So who's first? Who wants to come on, Mark?
We could go chronologically, right? When we arrived, I went down and looked at. Well, we went for a long walk. You gave us this wonderful tour of all these sites.
Oh, that was so nice.
On the day one, and found some willow, cut some willow there, and I proceeded to make a basket out of that. However, I'm not going to finish the basket just yet, as I used all of the willow now in the pod that Rebecca and I have been making. It's quite a track, isn't it?
It is quite a track.
So that's what I've been doing. Rebecca and I have produced this dogwood, a lot of dogwood down there. I've really overgrown, bright red, and big pod, life size, human sized.
Are you telling me you've only got 2 projects on the go?
No,
there's normally at least 5
so far.
Well, what's going on?
Well, we also there's the outcrop. There's the top piece
that we're all making together.
Oh yeah.
There's that piece there, and then James, John, and I with some
very large pine cones.
Thank you, very large pine cones.
We did a little thing.
So that's 4. What's the 5th one? You got. It's just an idea. There's normally stuff. You rein them in a bit, because it's normally like when you haven't been there with him and Lano, you walk past and go, "I've started another one, and there's this guy. I haven't need to finish that, and now I'm supposed to be building the stage."
To help me do this.
Mark did actually jump up out of bed this morning and said, "I'm just not doing enough." And I'm just like,
I knew it.
Listen, it's okay.
I knew it.
Look, if you only manage 4 things, it's fine.
Yes.
Well, maybe that's an indication of the relaxed space we're in. You don't feel under any pressure, so you can push one off the end.
I mean, I really like the river. I'd like to do something with stones, and moss.
Yeah.
I want to work with moss.
I've been using mossy logs today.
You've been making loads of things, haven't you, James?
Did you know it's that going into somewhere new and seeing all these new opportunities? I just want to try and experience it all, really. So over the first 2 days, I think I've made 5 pieces of work, ranging from half an hour to maybe a couple of hours. And I think it's kind of, for me, it's important for just to go through that process, because there's talk of it, and we've started kind of like a big piece together. And I know I will be much more focused on that once I've got what's in my head and all the little things I'm seeing straight away, to get them out of my system almost, and just have that time to play. Tomorrow, I'm up for the big group project, because I've had such a wonderful day today, just exploring on my own and playing. It's marvellous.
So just to explain, the group project is a piece that me, Mark, and James have been working on with Rebecca as well. And it's about how many trees is it? About five trees.
It's nestled or based around 5 trees so far.
So the stick is a stickwork piece, and they flow from up each tree, and they spiral around and swirl all amongst each other and connect. So it's a work in progress.
How it's coming together. As one tree trunk works meets the other, we're kind of seeing how that flow kind of happens.
And the sticks go from small to big and back again. And
it's a lot of work.
Yeah, there's lots to do, but I think we made a lot of progress. We only did like 2 hours work, and it was
It's going to be interesting from my perspective, because I'll be able to come back and see. I don't think it's going to get much footfall through there, so it's going to stay relatively intact. I guess maybe the wind, it's kind of sheltered. So, interesting. I'd like to study how things decay in my own work quite a lot, but to see something nearby to see what that does. Yeah.
I mean, a lot of the materials are pretty decayed already.
Yeah.
And they're from like really narrow, I don't know, maybe 1 or 2 millimeters thick stick, 2 actual trees, which I've dragged
There's
up.
so much deadwood up there.
Yeah.
It's really, it's
part
rare
of
to
the-
have that amount of material all in one
pattern.
place to use. Yeah, it's nice. What have you been making, Julia?
I've just had a little play down in the what looks like it could have been a type of garden at some point with the cottage. It's a bit looks a bit Himalayan. There's rhododendrons, other Asian plants down there that I don't know the name of, and great big trees that are different to the rest of the forest land around. And I've just been making little circles in between a couple of trees. Just had a play. Just had a bit of play, really.
I have seen them and they are very sweet, very lovely. I saw that tree as well and thought that's crying out for a piece of work, that tree. So I'm glad you found that.
Yeah, it was. It's a nice spot down there.
It is. It's beautiful.
That's me. Think about.
John, what have you made today?
So I've only really made one piece aside from the group piece, and that was today. I spent all day on it. Just about got it done before it started raining, and that is down by the river. It's on like this tiny little patch of what I'm going to call beach. The sand isn't like your typical beach sand, but it looks like it could be mud, but when you use it, it is just like sand.
Yeah, like a coarse dark grey, with black bits in it as well.
So I dug myself a hole, which took long enough. Took longer than I'd like to say.
How big's the hole, John?
It's not especially big, but when I'm trying to like make it the right shape and smoothness,
Yeah.
so I'm trying to make like this basically cone, but in negative space rather than
Inverted.
positive.
Yeah.
And then I used sticks to make this kind of walkway, shall we say, up from the very bottom all the way around, spiralling up.
I've seen the pictures and I've seen the video. The hole looks deeper than it actually is. It does look.
I think what works is the sticks are creating shadow,
Yeah.
so it makes it look darker.
And also scale. They start really small and get bigger as they go up,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
also helps.
It might be interesting. I don't know whether you guys have been posting them online yet, that we can share them.
We
so
have no
that-
Wi-Fi here, Richard.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, when we came down here, I was talking about Rod earlier, the guy whose family owns this land. So I bump into him. He's a working farm as well, organic farm. I bump into him on the way back from somewhere and have a little chat. And he said, this is a big place, you know. So as I said, there's 3 miles of wild river, and then all the valley sides, either side of that, and woodland and fields and meadows and what have you. And I wouldn't always go to the real kind of honeypot famous places, like they've got a place called the Fairy Pools and some of those places I took you around when we first got here. And he'd say, oh, what have you been making? And I'd tell him, and you know, it might even be something that's, you know, 8 inches across, really small and hidden behind somewhere. And I was just absorbed in that place, wherever it was. And I'd say to him, oh, well, you know, you go down this place and then there's this slope and then just behind there's a tree. And there was like a little rock there, and I went in a thing there and along a bit. And he'd go, oh yeah, I think I know where that is. And this is pretty vast. And I don't think my description was very good. I'd get home and he would post a picture on Facebook of exactly where it was. So it might be nice. They've got a Middlewood group, like a Facebook group. It might be nice for us to share.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
absolutely.
And so that he can go and have a look at it, because he really appreciates this art form and people coming here and the feeling they get from being in this place. So he would love that. So
I thought we should
yours
print
might not
some
like
pictures
if
out
it
for
rains
the
too
coin.
much. Yours might.
Mine's potentially gone already.
Yeah.
I mean,
But-
the hole will probably still be there, but the sticks, you know.
Maybe the water table started, so water's coming up from anyway.
Yeah, maybe.
He'd appreciate the photos anyway, and the fact that we'll have a little collection. And we had, I must 5 years ago now, Michael grabbed the gravity glue, came and visited here, and I remember it was my best accolade from him. That he said when we were down on the river, there's 10 times more scope here than the whole of Boulder Creek, which is where he hangs out the whole rest of the time. So
Colorado.
yeah, I haven't managed to get him back yet, but he really fed off this place as well. Yeah. So yeah,
I did wonder about whether we should produce a little series of collaborative, like postcards of what we've done. Well, that'd be quite a nice thing.
Yeah.
Little joint project to sort of celebrate our time here.
Definitely.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
I mean, ages ago I was making little self-published books, and one I wanted to do for him was all the things that I'd made here. So so it would be nice to have a chronicle of because it's a rare thing for someone to have such an amazing place and to freely offer it to people who this is what we what we feed off for as you were saying, Caroline, about those connections and creativity, what we thrive off.
Yeah, I'll add some postcards to my little list of design jobs I'm doing this week.
Yeah,
Nice.
With a little bit of special branding that we working. That'd be nice.
Ooh, yeah.
So yeah, I've got a few little design jobs that I'm doing, which is quite nice to just be here doing that. And I've got a little job for the Lanarworth Art Fest in today, which is always good to support and things. And yeah, the rest of the time I've just been doing crochet or a little bit of wool weaving. So while you guys are all out there, but yeah, postcards are a good plan.
So, Richard, you said there were some questions from other people.
Yeah, so at the beginning of the podcast I was talking about how normally this time of year we'd all be thinking about travelling to Texas for the Llano Earth Art Festival. So all of those guys are in our thoughts really, and one of the reasons why we've gathered together at this time is because we're not able to go this year, or there isn't a festival this year, and it's not just that we wanted to get together. We actually we want to get together with everyone that goes there, the organisers especially. We did want to actually record a podcast with Binky and Ron, Binky and Ron, the sort of founders of the festival. But unfortunately, the Wi-Fi here is so patchy. We've not been able to technically be able to do that. So we'll catch up with them for another time. So we asked people to send in questions around that subject. So the first one here, we have a question from somebody called Gretchen from Honduras.
Hey,
so we've got
Gretchen.
a listener in Honduras.
Hello, Honduras.
Hello, Honduras.
Of the materials you use, which best describes your personality?
Oh God, that's such a hard question. I think I need to hand that over and ask Caroline which of my materials best
Yeah.
describes my
Yeah.
What
personality.
which of your
Sticks are long and
materials
bendy.
describes
No,
you?
I'm not
Yeah.
long and bendy.
Am I sticky?
Oh,
Am I
I
a bit
see.
stony?
You're not sticky.
I'm a
You're not
leafy.
that
Yeah.
stony.
With
Yeah.
anything. Yeah, that's true.
I think I'm leafy.
I was going to say leafy.
You probably
Yeah.
are leafy.
I think Mark's, flexible like his
A bit
willow.
mossy.
Yeah,
He's very flexible.
yeah, I'd give you that. I think
You should see me limbo.
Oh, we have.
Wow, the night is young, Mark. There's still plenty of time for that.
John, you're rock.
Yeah.
yeah,
Johnny's
hard rock.
Yeah.
I think I can self-describe as probably two different things: a bit thorny, a bit spiky at times, but also kind of ephemeral and a bit wispy and a bit sort of away with the
wispy,
the wind at times.
Holly leaf.
Yeah, maybe sometimes they're at different times. Maybe I can be only spiky or only wispy. The two don't necessarily cancel each other out.
Beck, what would describe you?
Viminalis.
Viminalis.
Yes.
Viminalis is a variety of willow.
Which has lovely catkins on it.
Oh,
Little fluffy catkins.
Fluffy. We're just coming into spring, aren't we?
Fluffy.
In a good
I'll
way.
go for muddy.
Muddy.
Mud.
I'm a bit muddy.
Yeah, I like that.
I think I'm definitely woolly. I think
Woolly.
it's
Woolly.
easy.
Yeah.
I should change it to an
Knitted to the
A.
core, I
Bit
think.
maddy.
Maddie.
Okay, on to the next question. So we've got a question here from Patricia or Patty, I think, from California.
Hello, Patty.
Hello,
Hi,
California.
You said in your last podcast that you always walk. So a listener,
Oh, it's scary
you said
when someone
in
says
your
you-
last podcast that
got a
you
listener.
always walk away from these events a little happier. How easy or difficult is it to bring that good feeling home with you?
It lasts for. It does
It
last.
does last a long time.
It does last. But it's like such a boost to be together and then to be creating and then it goes back. But it fades a bit when it like the grind of life. But then you always got something. I find. But there's always the next time.
But I kind of feel like I want to tell people how simple things like what we do really do have a massive impact on how you feel and how happy you feel. And you can see people going around daily life really, really stressed or really kind of angst and full of kind of like stuff going on in their heads. So I kind of like the idea that we can take this back and just start to talk to people about it doesn't always have to be like this. Come on, we can make some decisions and just go out and do the stuff you love doing. It doesn't have to be what we do. Just find that thing that you love and do it more.
Yeah.
For me, and I've said this loads of times, but probably never on the podcast, going to Leaf is the thing that I get so much out of is just that sitting around together, just having conversations and finding out how other people from all over the world do with their day, you know, and how they live and how different it is to the things that we do. And it's such a sort of mind-opening experience to just go and realise that there's a whole millions of ways to do life and to be each day, and that's brilliant that you always take away lots of little things that you go, oh, actually they do it like this, I'm going to try that, and it's brilliant for that.
That's our inspiration for this
Yeah.
podcast in particular. What we talked about when we thought about doing it is that, I mean, at the moment it's been, you know, John, you're our first special guest, but it's been the six of us.
We need to do that clap again.
Every time
Yeah.
he gets a clap, yes,
It needs to be a slow clap.
like your theme tune. Right.
Back on it, come on.
It's you're channeling the lead singer thing there. You're insisting the audience and like, come on. But yeah, you know that's what we're trying. You know, we're maybe not found it yet through our listeners' ears, but that's what we're trying for. And as we go on, we want to bring in other people and create that vibe and have that chat. So please stick with us. That's what we're trying to do. Okay, so on to the next question. We have a Charlie from Texas.
Hello, Charlie.
He calls
Hello,
himself
Jordan.
First Time Caller.
Oh, hello, first time caller.
Hello, First Time Caller. I'm sure that I just have a sense that he's definitely not a first time caller. What environment do you feel makes the biggest impact on your creative process?
Woods. Got to be woods, isn't it?
I think probably it is woodland for me because it's what's on the doorstep and it's what's driven much of my creative journey, because it's, you know, I call the woods near my house my studio. It's the closest thing I've ever had to a studio because it's where I go to learn and to sort of experiment. So I'd say for me it's
what I like about the woods is you can wander through and you just get a sense of peace, don't you, while you're wandering through and you're looking at everything around you and looking at the ground thinking, oh yeah, that looks an interesting piece of material to use. And you get, just make you feel nice inside. And so I definitely say woodland as well.
Well, for me, it's the beach, because there's so many beaches around where I live.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's a kind of a generalisation to choose beach over woods, because it depends on the beach and it depends on the woods. certain beaches around Pembrokeshire, they're really popular and there could be loads of people and lots of distraction. And then other beaches, if you're willing to go down the coastal path a bit and down some dodgy steps, then you can have the place to yourself practically all day. I mean, you might see one dog walker, but you know, that peaceful space is your own then, really, to work.
Does it go deeper than that, than, you know, just the art? I mean, I don't know how long that you've lived in that area, but it's kind of, you know, before the art, you know, that's where you went to swim in the sea, and you know, so James had the woods nearby him, so that's where he found his solitude, and you were finding that, you know, and your art came after.
Yeah, so Freshwater West, which is a beach that I go to with brilliant coloured stones and massive beach. And there's also sand dunes there. And when I was younger, I used to go bodyboarding there, but I also used to do flips and stuff off the sand dunes and go jumping across all of them. Yeah, it was that was my favourite beach back then, but it's kind of transitioned to Linsway Bay now, which is a lot quieter, but it offers more.
Oh, you've taken me there.
Yeah, James has been there.
Yeah.
We created a piece together. It was a good collaboration where we combined our two styles into one piece.
Mark?
Ask me the question. What's the question again?
What environment do you feel makes the biggest impact on your creative process?
I would say growing up, the largest environment was Chichester Harbour, which is mud flats and as well as open sea. And my father used to go out in the boat, go kayaking. You know, I was a sea scout in Chichester Harbour. Just basically spent my childhood exploring the south coast, these sort of inlets and muddy, and like eating the samphire, from the shore, and the open wildness. I think actually, whether it's woodlands or whether it's the sea or a beach, it's the wild, or even the top of a mountain like in South Wales or something. It's wild. The wilder it is, I think, the more I enjoy it.
Absolutely.
The more extreme it is.
Yeah.
I know that you've someone who's been to the Himalayas 10 times, but for me, it's my version of, and regarding woodlands, there's a forest near us called Kingley Vale in the South Downs National Park. Some of those trees are like sort of 1,500, 2,000 years old, and it's just extraordinary,
Yeah, I think we have a similar outlook in that respect. I mean, even some of the very flimsy, small sculptures I make, it's still into the wildness in that the leaves are crinkling up as you're playing with them. So I don't think about an environment like woodland or beach, or I think more of the changes in the environment, that edge where you feel nature's flux and transience and ever changing. That's what I'm looking for, and you can find that in those wild places, difficult environments, changeable weather, but also in very ephemeral materials, or the place here feels like it's kind of there's fallen trees all over the place. There's stone falling into the water. There's that rawness, and I think it's the truth of all the environments we're in, and where we can find that, I think we lose a sense of ourselves in a good way, and we become connected to wherever we are much more.
I think in the true spirit of the shallow thinker that I identify as, for me it's anywhere new. It could be a city. I love a city visit. Yeah. I love anywhere that I haven't been before. And I think I really look for colour and texture wherever I am. So just a new place to find new little bits of colour and texture I find really inspiring.
It's again those same different bits of your brain, connections being made, like when you create something. It fires those same places. Makes you feel alive.
I like something new, something different to look at. Doesn't kind of matter what it is.
Makes you feel inspired, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What about you, Rebecca?
For me, it's I've been thinking about what everyone's been saying. The place that really inspires the socks off me is the South Downs Way, which we can pick up. Takes about, I don't know, 30 minutes from our house. And actually, it doesn't matter how many times I walk sections of it, I always find something new. And the experience is of a wilderness, and wildness. And I do love going up there and not bumping into anybody, finding sections where there's nobody else around. Or when I do meet somebody, it's special. But walking along that path, I came across this mound of ash dieback wood chip, and Mark and I created a piece. And that's the other thing I love, going off on my own and walking, and then I come back and say, Mark, I found a place, we should go. And then we go up and make something together up there. So yeah, that's very special, and I love that wildness.
Lovely.
And we have a question here from somebody we know well, Bryony.
Bryony, hello.
Hey.
Bryony.
And she asked 3 questions actually, but I think we've actually used her questions in the rest of the podcast because they were very good questions. So I'm going to pick one of hers specifically. How does land art and your creativity help your mental well-being?
I mean, the two go hand in hand for me. As you're putting yourself in your happy place, and allowing yourself to have that time there is crucial and completely linked to sort of my wellness.
So I think a link that I like to try and make, particularly to people who need encouragement to go outside or something like that, is that if you think about art therapy and then you think about going outdoor therapy, there's loads of those.
Yeah.
You put them both together and you've got land art, haven't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's kind of double the therapy.
About how many times have people said to us happened upon a workshop or come to a workshop, but go away with so much more because they've not allowed themselves to do it. And as soon as they've had that invitation to do it, you can just see it in their faces that, why have I not done this before?
Yeah. I mean, I'm always saying it's rooted in our DNA. It goes, it is what we did prior to having everything manufactured for us in industrial processes. We made everything that we needed from the land. We made objects to enjoy and musical instruments, but we made clothing and shelters and vessels and baskets and all of those things. They were both utilitarian and beautiful and stimulating to the people that made them, and we've spent hundreds of thousands of years doing that, and only the recent few centuries or decades not doing that. And you give somebody the space to do that for 5 minutes, and all those things, just all the worries of the world sort of fall away. But it's a very simple thing. We've sort of kind of lost, a lot of us have lost that connection, and we may have, the technological world may have changed fundamentally, but as creatures, have we changed fundamentally? Not really. So it seems trite or obvious, or just to point that out, really, but it's still true.
I agree with what John said, that being outdoors and creating art outdoors is double therapy.
Absolutely.
It's just what we all need.
And that's it is what we are. It's what we've done for a long time, and it's the creativity and that connection to nature are things that we need.
The amount of people though that say, "I'm not creative." All the time.
It's a human trait. It's not it's not artists and the rest of humanity. It's everyone.
And I think it is something that sadly kind of ends up being taught out of people via education. The number of workshops we've done where, kids will just come running in and they'll just get stuck in, they'll just do it. And you sort of say to an adult, it's feel free, join in. And they go, no, I'm not creative. And it's that fear of
what a journey we
just
take
making a mark,
people.
and how, why do we get to adulthood and decide that all of a sudden we're not? It's bonkers.
I think it all stems from people who believe that they can't draw.
Yeah.
because the way school is, initially it's just drawing and painting, isn't it, for the most part?
It is.
Yeah.
And then people who can't draw or paint abandon all creativity because
or
they've
can't draw or
not
paint
succeeded
the
in
way
that
that
one
they're
small
What
area of
they're
art.
expected to produce.
Yeah. And if you think
Yeah.
about it, like, that doesn't involve any three-dimensional creativity other than like creating depth through 2D.
And it's misunderstood by the
technical, isn't
teachers.
it? Yeah,
who are
yeah,
teaching
absolutely.
it that they think it's about a mimicry of a skill and a judge, reaching a certain level, and then you stream kids into the ones that can do it and the ones that can't.
You're starting to make that
I don't know. There's a lot
Yeah.
to be said for plasticine and Lego,
Absolutely.
things like Minecraft.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But Lego, now we're in a weird line here. Lego is purely seen as play. When you're a kid, you just see it as play. You don't see it as creativity as a child. At least I don't think most people do. But then actually, it is creative. So yeah, Minecraft.
But
Lego.
play and creativity, they're just two terms for the same thing, aren't they? I mean, it's just somehow in our culture we've got legacy where the people teaching they didn't get it when they were young from their teachers, and it just progresses on. And we've between all the stories we've talked about here, we've had some of you guys that knew you're an artist early in life, and some of us that didn't. But we don't have special skills or something different to everyone else. We've just been very lucky that crossroads we got to, or wherever it was, took us in that direction. We can explore that. So it's when people say, as you say, Julia, people say, I'm not creative, and they hear us say that, oh yeah, but you can do. I'm like, no, we're no different to anyone else.
Like you were saying about all through history of like people just doing stuff with natural materials anyway. But we've always been outside. Go outside and get some fresh air. Stimulate your rods and cones from the sunshine and just get muddy
And
play.
Just do it. Show up. Do it. Show up. Do it. And don't please anybody else apart from yourself. And just show up and do it, and show up and do it. That's all there is to do.
Yeah.
Everything else is just
7-year-old.
Yeah.
As you say, you go to a workshop with a school. The 7-year-olds, none of them go, I don't know how to do it. They all just charge outside 100 mile an hour, and you're going, no, I need to show you what to do. They've already started. They know what they're doing, and then after that they start to have it educated out of them, as I did, and didn't discover it until much later in life. You don't fundamentally you carry that, should be able to carry that 7-year-old with you. You don't. But we lose it somehow. So.
When we've done workshops with the very little ones, and we've been reweaving a dome or something like that, one of the things I always find so charming is that the one thing they really want to do is just sweep up the leaves and just and then just throw them all down again and sweep up the leaves because they love the sound of it, they love the shape they can make with a broom, and no one's going like, oh, I don't know how to do this. They're just
We have been speaking for quite a long time.
We have.
I think this is a good point to wrap up.
I think so. I think being in each other's company, which we would be anyway, sort of lends itself to talking more at length. James, we will wrap this up. Thank you, everyone, for listening again to our in-person podcast, and we will have another half of this time together as material for the next podcast, so we hope to tell you more about what we've got up to. So thanks again, everyone, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
See you next time, and thank you, John.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Hey,
Bye.
thanks, John.
Thanks, John.